What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you tune into the channel. You check out the content. And with this video, man, I'll be talking about the fact that I think that for LeBron James, the closer he gets to retirement, I think that the good times for LeBron James is going to be are going to they're just going to run out, right? And this and the reason why I'm using this good times as an example because this just reminds me of an episode of Good Times that I watched, right? So this was years ago. So I watched this episode of Good Times, and it was a character on Good Times, a guy by the name of Sweet Daddy, right? And so Sweet Daddy hired JJ, which JJ is the one here with the white hat on. Sweet Daddy is the one with the red or the burgundy hat on, right? So he hired JJ to paint a portrait of his girlfriend, right? And so now before JJ, he started giving JJ all these clothes and all these gifts and all this stuff because he wanted this portrait of his girlfriend, right? And so he trusted that JJ was going to be able to deliver. He was going to paint something that his girlfriend, JJ was going to paint something that Sweet Daddy's girlfriend was going to like, right? So now, as it turns out, he painted the picture and he painted it the way he wanted to, right? But she saw the picture and she wasn't happy. So what happened to what happened to all the gifts and everything that Sweet Daddy had gave to JJ? He came and he took them back. JJ had clothes and if you watch the episode, he even sent a brand new refrigerator over because he found out that their refrigerator in their house stopped working, so he sent over that nice coat, jewelry and everything. So he gave JJ all that stuff because he just thought that JJ was going to be able to deliver. Now, Sweet Daddy girlfriend, she sees it and she don't like it. She don't like the way JJ portrayed her, so she wasn't happy with it. So Sweet Daddy had to come back and take everything from JJ, right? And so that's where LeBron James, in my opinion, that this kind of story just fits LeBron James, in my opinion. I think that LeBron James, as far as his NBA career, did not deliver. He didn't deliver for the fans, right? Fans want to see their superstar basketball player. They want to see this guy leave it all out on the court. They want to, because the bar was set so high with Kobe, Mike, Bird, Magic, like those guys, Isaiah, Dominic, like all the greats that I had the opportunity to see, those guys left it all on the court. And their fans just loved them for that, right? Now, throughout LeBron James' career, there have been times where, they didn't really get the impression that he left it out on everything out on the court, and LeBron James has said even, publicly, like it's only a game, right? And we as fans, we know that, we understand that, but we want to see selfishly, we want to see maximum effort at all times because that's what we were used to. We got it from Kobe, like we got it from Mike. So we wanted to see that. We didn't want to see flopping. We didn't want to see game management. Like Michael Jordan played all 82 games, 9 out of the 15. Like 9 out of 15 times throughout his career, and you know, that was the thing. Like if you were healthy, or if you were able to play, you played, and fans were used to that. Like no way if the Boston Celtics was going to play, they were going to play the Baltimore Bullets back in the day, and the Bullets wasn't good. No way Larry Bird was going to sit out, and so fans became accustomed to, like, and when the Lakers played the Baltimore Bullets, then Magic Johnson was there, Isaiah Thompson when they played Detroit. As wasn't no such thing as, oh, this is an easy win, we don't need Magic, we're gonna rest Magic. We're going to rest Mike. We're going, Mike didn't do that. Mike even said that, like somebody took, spent their hard earned money to come see me play. So I'm going to go play and I'm going to give them 100%. right? So that's fans don't feel like they got that from from LeBron James. And sponsors. Now when you talk about sponsors, did he deliver when it came to sponsors? No. For the same reason, like if sponsors benefit from what you give to the fan base. It's so like if you leave it all out there on the court, your fan base will reward you by spending money with your sponsors. So sponsors really didn't get everything that they could out of it. So that's another way that I think that I just think that LeBron James cheated the game, right? And so what happens to people what happens to people when you don't give them what they pay for? They want a refund, right? And on every level. And I don't know why people think that okay, you're dealing with Nike, you're dealing with the NBA, you're dealing with major sponsors and things like that. Like, why wouldn't they want a refund? Now, they don't come back and collect the same way that somebody else would come back and collect. But I think that once LeBron James' career is over with, I think he'll feel the repercussions for not delivering on what the NBA wanted him to bring to the table, what they wanted him to do. You know, and I think one of the ways he'll suffer is like I think they won't do business with him because it don't really benefit the NBA to continue to do business with LeBron James if he don't have that connection to a fan base. It don't do Nike any good. Like already LeBron James don't have the top selling sneakers. Michael Jordan played, I think his last game was in 2002, and he still outsells LeBron James. So that that was 24 years ago. And LeBron James has been in the league like 23 years. So the year after 1 year after LeBron after Mike retired, LeBron came into the league. And so LeBron James had 23 years to cap to capture or catch up with Mike or even overtake Mike. And he didn't do that. He didn't deliver on what was asked of him. Nike, and I think the NBA put him in front of millions of people every year. And his only thing was just to play basketball and play basketball as hard as you can. And the fans, like fans would have rewarded um LeBron for that. But I just, he just didn't do it. And I think that once LeBron James retires from basketball, because that's where all his leverage, in my opinion, that's where all his leverage comes from, is the fact that he's currently in the NBA. But like, why would the NBA really back LeBron James or like once he retired, he's on his own basically. Like the NBA, Nike, any sponsors that Gatorade, any sponsors that Mike dealt with, they can go back in the archives and they can blow the dust off of anything, all those different commercials and everything, and replay those commercials and still make money off of those from a nostalgic point of view. Same thing with Kobe, Mike, Bird. Like I remember like those Converse commercials or those McDonald's commercials that Larry Bird and Magic Johnson had, man, those are iconic commercials. And they can still benefit like those. They still had like you can still get residual effects from playing stuff like that, or you can draw off of stuff like that. But LeBron James don't have that type of connection to a fan base. His fan base is fractured, and I think it's going to hurt LeBron James in the long run that he didn't maximize his opportunity. Which basically, as a basketball player, you just gotta play your heart out, and it's not easy. Fans understand that, everybody understand that, but that's your job. Don't you run around trying to set yourself in a position to win championships with the best lineup, and you still didn't even pass Kobe or Mike doing that. I think Magic even got more rings than him. And So you didn't catch Mike Magic, you didn't catch Kobe, and people don't and people who know basketball don't really consider him better than Bird, which I don't consider him better than Bird. But you had 23 years to get it right. You had and the people surrounding him. I'm surprised that nobody, that surrounded him just instructed him like, look, man, you just go out there and ball. Everything else will fall in place. That's where the real money come in. Like most titans of like when you think about business titans and stuff like that, like they make more money in retirement than they do like while their company is up and running and all and at their peak. Bill Gates, left Microsoft, and he's worth more money now than he was with Microsoft. When you think about what's the guy name, John D. Rockefeller, right? The Rockefeller, this guy made more money in retirement, and he damn near monopolized the whole oil business, like in the early 1900s. Like the oil industry was monopolized by him. That's why he got sued, and he had to break his company up into a whole bunch of little small companies. But he and did even after that, he made more money in retirement, you know, because because he set that foundation. And so LeBron James is the only one, in my opinion, who did it. He tried to take shortcuts, and he just serves as an example that ain't no shortcuts. There are no shortcuts. And so that anybody that believed that, LeBron James would be able to just walk away with all this money and just ride off into the sunset, man, I just think that you're very mistaken. You are very mistaken. I just don't think that they're going to allow LeBron James to walk off and ride off into the sunset with all this money and then continue to make more money based on the fact that he was connected to the NBA. Like his situation is just so different from what from what all other athletes and entertainers has experienced. It's just different. And I don't know if LeBron James recognizes that, but I think that he will come to find out that taking shortcuts and look and trust me, I have a business my own self, right? And I've been in business, had my own business since 2003, since the year that LeBron James came into the NBA. And early on in my career, I thought that I could take shortcuts when I did certain jobs I do. I was like, all right, I don't have to, I could skip this step, and it never work out. I don't, it is something always go wrong. I don't, even if you on a job and you by yourself and you take a shortcut, you are going to get a call back and somebody going to say, hey man, what happened with this? This is not as sturdy as it need to be, or something just seems a little bit off. And I'll be like, damn it, I took a shortcut. And then I learned early on in business, like you just can't take shortcuts. There are no such things as shortcuts. And I wasn't dealing with nowhere near as much money or as big like what LeBron James is, but like I said, ain't no such thing as shortcuts, and you have to pay when you take shortcuts. Actually, you lose money when you take shortcuts because now you got to go back and correct something that you should have been did. You got to put more time and more labor into correcting, and now you lose money. And so, um, when LeBron James retire, man, I just think that this is going to be so apparent that all the decisions that LeBron James made throughout his career um, going to come back and bite him. He did not deliver. And so when you don't deliver, you have guys like this come back and collect, man. They're going to take back everything that they gave you, you know. And that's just how life works. It's not me wishing something bad on you. It's just that that's how life works, man. And this episode of Good Times, man, I used to watch it. I probably seen every episode of Good Times at least 3, 4 times, but or maybe more. But yeah, man, when you don't deliver, man, people come back and collect, and that's what I think. The LeBron James is in that situation. He's in that boat. So, and that's just how life works. I'm not just saying, you know, it works like that. Whether you think like I said, whether you think that you're alone and you're doing something by yourself, or if you on a court and you're performing in front of thousands or millions of people, like ain't no such thing as a shortcut. You have to deliver. So that's my take Make sure to like and subscribe. Also, don't forget to leave a comment. And with that being said, man, I'm gonna check y'all out in the next video. Peace.